Hey everyone, you're with the flower guy here, Zone 6B, and today we're going live to talk about one thing. Right there it is. Do you really need a cooler to be in the flower business? Well, let me tell you a quick story really quick while people are getting on. We are in Southwest Virginia, Zone 6B, sorry, I apologize. We're in Zone 6B. Now, we bought a truck a few months ago, probably now a month and a half ago, just showing people that we could do it and that we were going to start some sort of retail business, a wholesale retail business, I guess you could say. That wasn't the case. We lost pretty quick, lost the interest, lost the idea, lost not necessarily money, but it wasn't the thing for us. So right now I'm in the hoop house and I just wanted to show you a quick few things. It is a necessity to have a cooler, and I will explain why. Because of a couple of things. These flowers, I've been stressing and going over these flowers for a few quick moments. I'm actually using a paint sprayer. Let me show you that really quick. Got a paint sprayer right over there that I was allowed to borrow. And what I had done is sprayed an organic, an organic pesticide for all of the mites in here right now, because they can spread from our clothing. It's spider mites, and they are a leaf sucker basically, and they take all the nutrients straight from the dahlia. But that's not why we're on here today. Sorry, I'm a little shaky. I don't have my tripod. I don't have my microphone with us today, but I wanted to talk about this cooler over here. And yes, I feel like it is a necessity to have some sort of cooler on the homestead or flower farm. Let me take this fan off for just a second. I might forget to put it back. Hey, and if you like what you're seeing, make sure that you're liking and subscribing, because that's what supports the channel. Anyways, this was out of our house here, and what I had done with it is I had taken our our refrigerator and made it into a cooler here. So you can see that I do have flowers in it. I just now put them in, and we should talk about what we should keep that temperature at. The temperature should be probably around 37 to 41 degrees. That's a great place to keep your dahlias or any sort of flower. Now here on the top of the freezer, not just an ordinary freezer, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to, let me see if I can get it down here. I'm actually going to cut this seam here. I'm going to cut it right there. There's some peas if anybody's hungry. But I'm going to cut this out right here because it's just insulation, I believe. And I'm going to pull all these out, and I'm going to make it all into a cooler. And what I mean by that is I'll have one shelf down there at the complete bottom, and then I'll have 2 or 3 5-gallon buckets, however I can fit those in. And then I'll have one more shelf sitting there on the ground. I'll have one more shelf, and then it'll actually go up here. So hopefully the goal is to hold around $600 to $750 in here per cutting. So right now, I was with you guys live the other day, and I had just cut 20 stems there just for a quick second. I mean, I haven't even been home today. This is what we've been doing. Taking care of dahlias, taking care of things in Charlotte, North Carolina. So the thought is, yes, it is a necessity to have a cooler. What is the shrink? Shrink is something that you lose. It's your loss. It's perishable. And what is cut flowers? It's very perishable. Like, you don't want to just work something so hard, especially when you have, 90 days in a crop. Like a dahlia is 90 to 120 day crop before you start seeing flowering. And I apologize for all the shakiness for the ones that's just hopping on here, because I forgot my tripod. Anyways, let's get back to what I was saying there. Your crop has a loss. What is your loss? Maybe that's something that you need to calculate as a flower farmer. But for me, I like to expect at least 30% loss. That's crazy to think about, but 30% loss is on the tuber itself. It's actually on the flower itself. And it might be from pest, it might be from rot, it might be from just losing that actual cut flower. But one thing the cooler does is allows you a couple more days before it's really starting to opening up to sell to the wholesalers, to sell to the florists. And that just gives you some time. Also, it gives you accessibility. If you don't have these things cut in here, and somebody calls you and be like, man, I wish I had that, or you're at work and you're not a full-time farmer quite yet, and it's a struggle for everybody. The struggle is real. But one thing that I would say is that you need some sort of cooler. That's what I keep going back to. we bought a fridge for our home, and with the fridge from our home, we bought a brand new fridge, so we kind of wrote that as off as a tax write-off for the business, especially when we're putting that one in here and going to be cutting that. But today I had just sprayed, I think it's called Greenworks. It's an organic pesticide that I sprayed around 4 gallons worth in here, and the sprayer's right over there. Like I was telling people, I see new people hopping on and off. But is there any questions that people have as far as the cooler goes? There's a couple of different ways. You can grab a couple of refrigerators if you see those 37 to 41 degrees like I was just explaining. Excuse me. Or you can grab a normal air condition. Let's talk about that for just a quick second of what you could be doing and thinking and putting that in perspective. What is something cheap? What is something effective? And what is something efficient? A normal air condition unit is going to suffice the job. And then also if you look into something like a CoolBot is something that tricks that thermostat unit, and what it does is go straight to the refrigeration unit. Yes, thank you for all the, I appreciate it, all the encouragement on the growth that's going on here. I'm really happy, but also really stressed. And I'll explain that in just a second after I go over the CoolBot system. But so the CoolBot system, if you have some sort of insulated area, it could be a garage, it could be a closet, it could be a box, it could be anything that you can cut out a hole and put your air conditioning system in. You hook that CoolBot, there's only like 3 wires to a CoolBot system. You hook them up to the thermostat, the power, and the temperature. That's it. And it tricks the actual air conditioning unit, and that allows for you guys to have something that's a cool place. I'd expect to spend somewhere between $500 to $1,000 on that. That fridge was basically free. I just took it from the house. And then, you could also, if you want to go big, you can have a refrigeration unit on the back of a truck. You can also think about calling your local farmer's market. Like right now, my local farmer's market, if you offered, say you called the farmer's market and they had a cooler, and you can actually put flowers and produce together. A lot of people think you can't, but as long as you have a standard operation procedure of how it goes in, and if there's a quarantine area or whatever. But that's besides the point. What I would like to tell you is if you called your farmer's market, local farmer's market, and they were giving me a spot for $120 a month. That was with 24-hour dock access, and so you could have trucks come in and out. And that was, like I said, $120 a month for 2 pallets. So basically like 8 feet by as high as you wanted to go in the cooler, and I think it was like 16 feet in there or something like crazy. So you had the opportunity to do something like that. Maybe you have a florist in your town that the florist is no longer able to use, and I'm just giving you references of actually what's going on here for us. There was a florist that we were able to use the cooler here in town. I think it was like $75 or $100 a month. We were able to use their cooler, and there were no longer a business there. So that's one perspective to look at as well. Another thing to look at is like if there is a restaurant that has been closed down in your area that may have had a cooler, because all restaurants are going to have a cooler, right? Check that out, because there was a guy here in my town, if you know some people that may be interested to let you do something like that, there was a guy here in my town that was going to let me do that just for the electricity. And that electricity was going to be about $150 a month. It's different than spending $12,000 to $13,000, maybe $15,000 for some sort of system to just be put in your actual garage or whatever you might have. It's different. You don't have to actually spend all that cost. One thing that I spoke about in the beginning of our time as being a flower farmer is make sure that you're using your resources around you. Make sure that you're being efficient. You don't always have to have the nicest, the best thing to do the job, as long as it does the job efficient. And if you have to, borrow the equipment. Ask people to be able to help. I know that's hard for some people, but it's also a very big advantage when it comes to actually starting out in the flower industry. So, because it just costs so much, especially, like, I don't know when I was talking about it, but I was talking about how it costs so much to get started. And you can go ahead and buy the tubers, you can buy the corms, you can buy the seeds, but one thing you can't buy is already if you don't have it all planned out is like the infrastructure. Yeah, you can buy all that, but do you have the infrastructure to actually go through with it? So you can see that the spider mites have really been in there getting everything, and I have been spraying. It's very quiet in here. I've got the fans off at the moment to be able to talk to you guys. So I think that's the plan. I actually have my oscillator with me, which is oscillator is like a cutting tool that I could be using to cut this out. But for now, it's going to work. And yesterday, when I actually it was yesterday, I believe. Heck, I don't know when it was. I don't remember. But I think I was on YouTube Live or maybe Facebook Live. And if you haven't yet, make sure that you're on our Profitable Flower Farming group. It's on Facebook. Make sure you check that out. And we'll make sure to accept you in that. But like I said, we want to cut this out. We want to keep the support here. But maybe you should be thinking about that. What can you use that you already have? Is that a refrigerator? Is it an old AC unit that you already have? Is it something that somebody already has around? Make sure that you're being efficient on that. I gotta actually check the temperature in here. Ouch. Ouch! Hit me right in the head. So I've got it on the coldest setting right now. I feel some cold air coming out. It might take a while to get to. Fertilizer. Do you still have underground indoor greenhouse full of flowers? Let's talk about both of those. What fertilizer do we use right now? I think we're using there's two different fertilizers that we're using. 10-10-10, triple 10, and then we're using 5-1-1, which comes with the fish emulsion fertilizer. Those are the two fertilizers that we use right now. Are we still growing flowers inside of the hoop house, inside of the basement full of flowers? And the answer to the answer to that is no. We have had a lot of loss in the past year in the field. We've had a lot of loss to moles. We've had a lot of loss. And some of the stuff that I haven't even put on YouTube. It's been hard to even really put on YouTube. I don't know if I can find it. Hold on just a second. I know this is rough, and this might be motion sickness for some of you out there watching. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm looking here. Let's see, I could flip the camera around. I'm actually looking for something. And I don't see it here. These look very healthy. Over here, just a second, let me look. Well, I can't seem to find it, and that's okay. That's a good thing that I can't find it. But one thing that we've been dealing with in here is stem rot. And I think it's from the overhead, and I've really stopped and slowed down on the overhead. If you have never grown in a hoop house, and if you wanted to do it as your first year, I'd frown upon it and stay away from it completely. It's very easy to grow out in the field. It's much easier that way. That's what I would do if I was getting into it, because it's been very hard. So to answer your question on both of those that you guys asked was, do we still grow in the basement? No, we have all the lights still. What kind of fertilizers do we use? We actually have a fertilizer right there. Actually, I take that back. I told you guys wrong. I was doing organic and things last year, and I still think that's okay, but Greener Valley Supply, we're using granule. Let's see. I'm sorry. Let's see. Yep, 10-20-20. Okay, so are we able to move the hoop house here? And the short answer to that is no. You can see that. We have a pulley system that's actually broke on the end, and we'll be repairing that at the end of the season, depending on how everything's going. We also have automation water here that you can see all the drip stakes here. And to talk about is how we should be automating our water. And another thing that we should have in an actual edited video is how we're staking, how we're managing our pest problems, just so many of these things. It only comes up about 2 foot to answer that question. I would love for it to come up 6 foot or even larger than that, and that would probably regulate the the temperature a lot better. But how we're regulating temperature right now, and it never seems to get over about 110 in here. We have one fan there, and I kind of shoot that upward into the top of the hoop house. And this is a Gothic style hoop house for people who are just learning about what they are. And then I have that fan right there, and that's kind of my exhaust. Sorry, I was just trying to think about that for a second. The exhaust. And then I have one more fan over there that you can see all the way at the end, and that's actually on a automated system. It has a thermostat. Let me show you what I have here. This isn't exactly set up how it should be, but what I want to show you is just being efficient. And I have it unplugged for just a second. So I have this here, and basically it's got a thermostat wire that's hooked to it, and it'll cut on and off at 75 degrees. So then I'm consuming and being efficient on my electricity, because that is a big motor over there. I like to make sure that I'm using at least amount of energy as possible. Another thing, I don't know how much it's going to cost me on that fridge yet, but another thing that I'd like to talk about being in a cooler and being efficient is that does take money. And is it efficient? Whatever you're using, is it efficient? It helps if you can cut your flowers tight so that eventually they'll open up for the florist or wherever they're going. And then there's a couple of advantages to that. If you do have a cooler and you're selling to a florist and you cut them tight, by tight I just mean the foliage is still pretty much in a ball, or depending on what kind of flower, you need to look that up, whatever kind of flower that you're growing. But if you've got that cooler back there, you need to account for a couple of things, and one of the advantages to that is that you can actually tell them that you have never broke the cold chain. And what I mean by that is, as soon as you cut the flower, right, I put it on a wagon. I don't know where the wagon's at. The wagon's over there. As soon as you cut the flower, you're able to put it on a wagon, put it straight into the water, and it's always been a watered flower. So it's always been here's how I would specifically tell a florist, hey, I'd say this is the flower guy, basically. Flower guy here with Windy Brook Ridge, the flower farm, and we grow dahlias. That's our main crop that we grow. And what we're offering is we have flowers that have never been out of water. As soon as they're cut, they're put into water, and then after they're put in water, they're put straight into a cooler. And that cooler never breaks the cold chain from you, or from the actual harvest all the way to you. And it might be just an air condition at that point in your car, but that's something you can tell them, because they're getting dry boxes from Ecuador, from South America, from Amsterdam, from everywhere all over the country and all over the world. That's one thing that you could say is an advantage. I don't know exactly how much that fridge is going to cost us yet, but the fans and the few things that we have running in here, which we have our hydroponic system right over there, the few things that we have running in here is costing us around $20 a month, I believe. $20 a month, which isn't bad. And especially if you could sell $60 or $100 out of here every now and then. All of the flowers that we have in the cooler right now, we already have sold. So that's one way to look at it. If you're new to the channel, or if you're just hopping on, those flowers are being sold for $2.50 a piece right now. Anywhere from $1.50 to $2.50. That's where I would put that at. But I just wanted to hop on here just for a quick second. And if you guys have any more questions, please let me know. Or you can get on our Profitable Flower Farmer group on Facebook. So make sure you check that out. You're with the flower guy, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon. See you.